So let us begin. The theme of this webinar is a new feature which was introduced in the MidPoint 4.3, and this is the new query language. During this webinar, we will talk about the introduction to the new query language, how it came to be. Then I will show a quick setup of the demo. I will show you a quick demo of the features. Then we will go more in depth into the filters which are available with the Axiom query language. And later on, we will show more practical examples. MidPoint 4.3 brought us a new language for the filtering. It is a part of ongoing Axiom effort, which we are doing in the MidPoint to introduce more domain-specific languages and tools to the identity provisioning. The motivation for the Axiom query language was actually to provide more simplified or more user-friendly filters over the standard XML filters with the specific syntax tailored also for end users. The Axiom query currently does not introduce new features or new filters to the system. It uses the same backend as existing filters, so the same limitations apply. The Axiom query was possible thanks to the NGI Trust funding, which we received during the Midscale project this year. During this following tutorial, we will use released MidPoint 4.3 with the Hogwarts sample. We will show how to enable the Axiom query language because default support is only enabled in XML. In user interface, you need to enable the experimental features. So let us start. Let us log into the system. And in order to to enable the experimental features, we need to go to the system configuration and admin GUI section. And if you don't see the enable experimental features, you need to click on the show empty fields and enable it by selecting true. We need to save the changes. And in order for the changes in the GUI to take effect, we need to log in, log out, and log in. Now, if we want to use the filters, we can go, for example, to the user screen. And here in the filter bar on the top of the screen, there is a down arrow next to the search button. And you can select an Axiom query here. Let me show you one of the simpler filters. So let's search for all the members of the Weasley family. Name equals, so the filter is family name equals Weasley. Let me just zoom it, sorry. And as you can see, we got a filtered view, which shows only the Weasley's siblings. Also, there are some other filters which we will talk into the details in the following steps. The filters in the Axiom query could be categorized into the 5 sections. The one set of the filters are the comparison filters. These are usually equals, less, greater. Then we have a set of the string filters. These are starts with, end with, contain, and full text search. The next part are logical filters. This is the standard set of and, not, or filter. Then there are more interesting parts of the filter, which are the reference filters. This set of filters allows us to match on the referenced object. And then there is the final set, which are the nested filters. There are some other filters which will not go in depth in this webinar, and you can find them in the documentation. Most filters are in the form of property, then how we want to match it, and the value against which we want to match it. Formally, it's a triplet of item path, filter name, and value. The item path is, some of you may be familiar with it, is same as in the mappings, specifies which item should be matched by the filter. For example, a given name or activation, administrative status, or more specific ones, which is the assignment target ref. Then there is the filter name. That's the name of actual filter. In some cases, it could be also the short alias of the filter. And the last part is the value. For the most of the filters, we support only the literal values. And if the literal value is a string, it needs to be quoted. Because for some filters, there is also an option to use a path, item path, and we cannot distinguish simply if it's a string or the item path. So the standard comparison filter, we have 6 of them. And also we have the matching aliases to them, which are more friendly in the GUI. Some of the less or equal, greater or equal, these aliases are not so useful in the XML since you need to escape them, but there is still possibility and support for them. So let us go for the examples. As I showed before, I show you an equals filter. Family name equals Weasley. If we want to see everyone except the Weasleys, we just put an exclamation mark equals. Or we can also exclamation mark, or we can write this. For the comparison filters like less or greater, let us search for the users which will be deactivated this year. So the filter could be written more like activation valid to is less than 1st of January 2022. If we perform the query, we can see that Mrs. Sprout will have her account deactivated this year. We can use also the less or equal filter, or even greater filter. Also, it is correct to use a textual form of the filter, and we have the same result. The next set, as I mentioned before, is R string filters. We support currently 4 of them. There is a starts with. This filter matches if the item starts with the specified prefix or any of the value in the item, if the item is a multi-value. Then we have a contains filter. This matches if the specified substring is contained in the item. The ends with matches if the item ends with the specified substring. So basically we are searching for the suffix. And full text, this is a bit special. It performs the full text search. This needs to be enabled, and you need to have the full text index properly constructed. And since full text is performed on the full object, the path is always a dot, which represents the full text. So let's go to some examples. let's say that we want to see all the roles or the organization structures which are Quidditch related. In this sample, all the Quidditch teams have their name prefixed with the Quidditch. So if we want to just filter out the Quidditch ones, we could just simply write the filter, the name starts with Quidditch. And as you can see, we are able to see only the Quidditch teams. If we go back to the users, and for example, we want to see all the users which has an MC in their name, like Mac, we can search for the name which contains Mac. And we can see that we have a Cormac McLagan, Minerva McGonagall, and Michael McManus in the system. For the suffix, we can search like ends-with, and let's go with the Lee. And we can see that this matches, this filter out and showed us the Weasleys and Fletchleys. The other set, which is very important for the filter writing, are the logical filters. The end filter is match if both filters are true. The OR filter matches if any of the filters is true and not negates the filters. If you look at the example, the not is not written before the statement, but it's part of the statement before the filter name, so it reads more naturally. Family name not starts with W. So basically, if we want to search, for example, for the Fred and George, name George, we see all the Freds and Georges we have in this system using the OR. If we want to search, for example, for every user except the user starting with A, so let's say that given name does not start with A. And if we perform the query, we can see that we have all the users, and none of the users has the given name starting with the A. And let's search for and let's use the end filter. So let's start and refine our query. We first search for all the Antonies. And if we want to match the Antony Rickett, so we can do this by family name, by adding the end family name Rickett. So this. Okay, sorry. As you noticed, since this is an experimental feature, sometimes it doesn't show the correct error if I made a typo. And it is necessary to make sure that you have a spaces between the keywords, which I forgot to have there. Okay. Now to the more interesting filters, the reference matches filters. The keyword is matches. These filters usually are on the items which ends with ref, and basically works on the object reference type. It allows you to filter on the three main properties of the object reference. One is the OID. This filter is for the exact match of the OID. For example, we can see here that we have the assignment, target ref, matches, OID, and this is a very specific filter, very concrete. It matches all the users in the Hufflepuff dormitory. The other is a relation. This filter matches all any reference which has a specified relation. Usually, most commonly used relations are default and manager if we have an organization structure. For example, we can have a filter like which displays all the managers, role membership ref matches relation manager. And also there is a target type property on which we can match any reference which has the specified target type. So for example, we have here a filter which lists all the users which are the members of the organization. The reference filters also allows you to specify using the end inside the using the end also allows you to specify other parts of the relation. So for example, this one matches exactly, I think, the manager of the Gryffindor organization. So let's go back to our search. And let's use this one. So we are matching by the OID. And since OID is a string, I need to quote it. Sorry. Or I used incorrect OID. So let's just search me for the organization. Okay. Let's go for the Hufflepuff users and run the query. Yeah, I made the type. I had the wrong ID there, and you can see the target ref matches OID, and these are all the users which are members of the Hufflepuff. We can verify this just by looking, for example, at someone, and we can see that he is a member of the Hufflepuff organization. Let's go back to the old users. We can also list all the managers using the relation manager filter. And if we click, for example, at Cedric Diggory, we can see that he is a manager of the Hufflepuff Quidditch team. So this is a useful filter for listing all the managers in the organization tree. And if we want to list all the users which are part of the organization, we can use, for example, role membership ref matches target type organization. And we can see we have 62 users there, which are the members of the Hogwarts. But for example, originally we had okay, it's just not. We had this 64 users, and one of them is the administrator, which is not part of any organization. Also, it is possible to specify, as I mentioned before, it's possible to specify all three parts or any of the two. that quotes again. And this filter matches the organization manager for the Gryffindor, which is Minerva McGonagall. In the same set of the reference filters, there are the filters which specifically deals with the organization and organization tree. One is the in-org filter. This matches if the object is a member of the organization subtree. Since this filter runs on the whole, on the object as a whole, the path is again just the dot. And let's search as, for example, for all the Quidditch players. And so if we look into the organization tree first, we can see that we have a Quidditch teams. There is a on the top of the hierarchy, there is a Quidditch teams root, and there are the nested organizations. And if we go to the all users, we are searching for the all users which are part of the Quidditch teams organization and sub-organizations. The other special organization filter is root. This filter is if you want to match or find the root organizations. Also, it is applied as to the whole object, so it doesn't. So the path is always dot. And since it doesn't have any value, it's just dot is root. So we will go to the organization structure, all organizations list. So if we search for isRoot, we can see that we have three organization roots, which is the Ministry of the Magic, Hogwarts, and Quidditch teams. The query language has some limitations. Currently, the Axiom query language does not support all the features of the XML filters, such as variables or the scripting expressions. So this limits its use mostly to the GUI, some exploratory filtering, and some simple use cases where you don't need to compute the values to match against. The support for the missing features will be added or maybe added in the later releases. Also, as I mentioned before, the error messages in the GUI are not yet helpful, and we will plan to improve upon that. So let's go for the advanced uses and examples. We will show you how to dereference the references and match on the nested objects. Then I will show you how to use Axiom query to create a new object collection or a new view in the GUI. And then I will just show you some simple snippets how the query language is used, Axiom query language is used in the XML. So it is possible to dereference the reference. So for example, if you want to match not on the object itself, but for example of any of its rows, you can use an add symbol to dereference these objects. This filter is only supported for the repository objects which are stored in the repository. This filter cannot be used against the resources or in memory. And this is very useful. This is very useful filter in the GUI if you do not remember OIDs of the reference objects, but names. So let's go back and let's go to the all users. And for example, I want to find who is on the Gryffindor Quidditch team. So let's go. Let's start with role membership ref, or let's go with the assignment. So the user we are searching should have assigned the role in the Quidditch team. So let's say we are searching for assignment target ref, and since we do not remember the OID, we cannot use the normal matches filter. So let's use @symbol. This means that we are matching on the target of this reference, and matches, and I remember the name is Quidditch Gryffindor. So if we perform this query, you can see that we have just list of the Quidditch of the Gryffindor Quidditch team, and to verify that, we can see that that Fred Weasley has an assignment to the Gryffindor Quidditch team. You can match also on multiple values here using the AND filter, and you can also combine this filter with some others. So, for example, let's say we want to see all the Weasleys which play the for the Gryffindor team. So, family name. And let's run query, and we can see that Fred and George plays for the Gryffindor team. As I mentioned, this filter is mostly useful for the GUI if you do not remember correct OIDs and want to search members of specific group, or some based on some other criteria. But the dereference is a bit less effective if you use it. So if you need higher performance filters, OIDs are still the way to go. So the next example I will show you is to create an object collection using the Axiom query language. So let's go back to the GUI, and let's go and create a collection view. So we go to the system, admin GUI configuration. Now admin GUI. Let's go to the object collections, and let's add the object collection view. We need to scroll down to the form, and let's call this view managers view. Let's say it will be always visible. It will be on the user type. Label will be the managers. Searchable. And for the collection, we want to enter the Axiom query filter. So let's click on the Axiom query here. And now instead of XML filters, you could enter the Axiom query filter. And let's say that we are searching for the users or for the objects which are of the user type, and their membership and their role membership is with the relation manager. And let's save. Since this is the change of the GUI, we need to log out and log in order to for it to affect our session. And if we click on the users, we can see here new tab managers, and this one now lists all the managers in the organization. Okay, and the last thing I wanted to show you is how to use the Axiom query in the XMLs. So we added support also for the XML. So everywhere when you can use a filter in the MidPoint, you are also able to use Axiom query by using the text element inside the filter, and then inside this text element you write your Axiom query. For more detailed documentation of the Axiom query, please visit the docs at evolveum.com. We will provide there more. There is a documentation for that, and also for other filters, and we plan to provide some additional examples. For example, how to convert some XML filters into the Axiom query. So this concludes my part of the presentation, and opens up a place or open up for your question. So please ask questions in the chat or by voice. Okay, so we have a few questions. The first one is by Nicholas Rossi. If the comparisons are case sensitive, the case sensitivity depends on the type. Let me go here. Let's go to the all users. And if you are searching on the fields which are of the polystring type, then we are matching on the normalized value. So basically case insensitive. So let's go, for example, let's start with giving them name Fred. Filter. So this is case sensitive. Case insensitive version of the filter is like this, but we are using an equals. So if you want to match it on the normalized form, there is an additional feature for which is maybe known for the people working with the XML, which is matching rules. So we can search for the normalized form. That means that we are it's written in the square brackets, and we are using the polystring normalization. So in that way, you can write the filter in the case insensitive way. Yannick Sofer asked if we have a fuzzy search to match misspelled names or wrongly accentuated names. No, we don't have fuzzy matching for this type of the names. This is basically, as I showed now, we are just matching on the normalized form based on the normalization rules in your organization. We didn't add new features for the search here for that. And another question is if we have an auto-completion in the user interface for the field names and the relations. Currently, since this is experimental features, we don't have the auto-completion. And this would be a nice feature we can explore in the future releases. Okay, if there are no any more questions, thanks for your time. If you have any questions, ask at the sales@evolveum.com. Please follow us on our social media, and I hope you found this presentation and our new features useful. Thank you for your attention.